why we have to ask about the mental state of the hostages is, of course, because of the brutality we saw on October 7th. Among Hamas's most vile crimes against humanity on that day, in addition to murder, torture, and butchery, was the use of rape as a weapon of war. Despite mounting evidence, including live video of Hamas's savagery, women's organizations around the world have maintained either silence or criticized Israel itself for the war against Hamas. Yesterday marked the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and the silence from feminist groups around the world is deafening. Joining us now is Anita Friedman, the chairperson of the World Women's International Zionist Organization from Tel Aviv. Anita, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you for having us.
These organizations, they say they serve women's interests, but if they can't even say a single word about rape as a weapon of conflict, what cause are they really serving here?
That's a very good question. You know, in the environment that we're living, where anti-Semitism is raising its ugly head, we see it also in these called humanistic and feministic organizations. We've been working with them for the past, which exist for 103 years. And since then, we've been working with different organizations, women's organizations all over the world. The silence that we're meeting now, it's so deafening that there's no other explanation. I mean, there is no excuse for rape being the arm of anybody. You know, it's a terror. Rape is rape, no matter who is done to. And these organizations have the motto of, we believe you, we hear you. In this instance, they're making differentiations and they're trying to frame it politically. It's not political. It's gender-based rape. We also have men that have been raped. It's sexual violence in general. There's not buts.
Under that sort of circumstances, why have they not made a statement then? We can discuss what cause they're trying to serve, but ultimately, does it not undermine their legitimacy as organizations? Can they be held accountable?
Unfortunately, I think you're right. It does undermine the work that we've so hardly been working towards for so many years. It has been so hard to prove and to make sure that we believe rape victims, that this just undermines everything that has been done in the last 30 years in these organizations. I don't know how they're going to move forward. We did have a statement from the UN, a very laconic statement, and we will have our own commission, humanitarian commission, finding out about the rapes. We will come out with it with all the information, and these organizations will have to deal with it.
If these organizations are not going to do their most basic duty, then who will take up that mantle? Who will ensure that there is some form of justice for all of these Israeli women that have been so brutalized?
Well, as you know, Israel is pretty much isolated throughout history. And this is one of the instances where we know what we have to do. We are an organization that is 103 years old. We've been dealing with these issues. We've been taking care of ourselves together with the government, of course. We're the right hand of any government, and we do everything we can for the people of Israel. And this is the same thing right here. We know what we have to do. We know how we have to deal. And if we need to, we will go to the international courts to make sure that this is addressed in the right way.
And we're talking about justice, we're talking about the international court, but there are survivors, there are people that are suffering right now. What can be done here in Israel alone, since the rest of the world doesn't seem to want to help or care for them specifically?
Well, as I said, we have centers for prevention of violence, and we have centers for victims of sexual assault. They are very much experienced in what kind of help we can give these women. This is a long process. It's going to be a long process to make sure that all the people, it's not only the women that were raped themselves or that were killed, it's also the people that were witnesses. You know, we have a lot of witnesses that maybe they themselves were not raped, but they saw everything that happened next to their friends and so on and so forth. So this is an immense task of taking care therapeutical, physically, in every way we can. And of course, we will do whatever we can to help these women.
Now, you've probably seen the hashtag that went viral in response to the world's silence on the topic of Hamas's use of rape as a weapon of war. There was "Me Too, unless you're a Jew." Can we truly dismiss the world's silence as strictly political and related to Israel, or ultimately does it come down to the age-old anti-Semitism that we've seen across the entirety of the world?
I think it comes down to the age-old anti-Semitism. People already don't need an excuse. This is so glaring, this lack of any kind of statement. I mean, these organizations, their first duty is to believe the victims. That's their motto. And to say you're not alone. And they are reneging on everything they're based on. And we've been sending letters. We've been communicating with them. I mean, in a personal basis, in an organizational basis, anything we can. And that's why you saw, finally, after 50 days, the UN representative saying, I met with Israeli women and heard about their work they're doing, and we remain alarmed. Even their language is so laconic, it's just incredibly, I don't understand it. Any human person, any feminist, any humanitarian organization, I think they need to do housekeeping on what they're doing and why are they doing and how are they doing it. And this is our call from here.
Anita, we already discussed that this undermines their legitimacy in every possible way. Given that, are these organizations going to continue to even exist if they've betrayed their principles so badly?
That is up to, I think there's a very important place for organizations like this, regardless. I mean, it was very hard to create this kind of organization. It was very hard to carve a legitimate way of proving rape in general, but rape as a tool of war, as a tool of coercion in societies. It was very hard to create it. As I said, it has taken at least 30 years for these organizations to be created. I really hope that they renege or recant on being silent and they come behind Israeli women who have been raped, especially when they see the proof. There's a lot of proof out there. And I do hope for human beings and for feminists and for societies in general, for these organizations to continue doing what they need to do, but without politicizing it, without the but that we as Israeli women see they're using.
Definitely a challenge going forward. Very, very briefly in the last minute that we have left, do you have a message to the world in light of everything that we've just said?
Yeah, the message is stop being silent. Look what is in front of you. You will be next. We are the first ones, but you will be next. And there will be nobody to stand next to you if you don't stand next to everybody else. That's it.
A call to stand on principles instead of politics. Thank you very much, Anita, for everything that you've said and for revealing the blatant hypocrisy and, I guess, the subversion of organizations that were supposed to serve a better purpose.